What's up, guys? Welcome back. Just a guy on the internet here. We're going to talk about sports, talk about movies. If you're here, I assume ready to check out a long form video. That's cool. So we're going to jump right into it here up next with the NBA. We officially had opening night last night in the NBA. A couple of really big games. Not super surprising results, but a couple of interesting games. We started off with the Rockets and Thunder, which ended up going to double overtime. Really kind of a fascinating game. The Thunder, obviously, without Jalen Williams. Shea had, I think, 5 points the first half, put up 30 in the second. Kind of the magic you expect from him a little bit. The Rockets obviously weren't able to come away with the win, but I thought they looked good. A lot of people have said, the point guard thing is going to be a problem, and I agree. I think every team needs a point guard. We talk about positionless basketball, but every team needs at least a backup traditional standard point guard. Ball handler, I guess, is probably a more accurate term. But that's something they'll probably look for for maybe trade, maybe sign somebody. But, they're still a very good team. But I just think there's a difference between very good teams and championship contenders. If you want to be a championship contender, you cannot have big flaws. And that's a big flaw in the roster. But they're both very good teams. I could see either of them competing for the 1 seed in the West. Obviously, the Rockets are going to have a little bit to figure out. I had a big shakeup over the summer. Shipped out Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks. Those were both big culture guys, especially Dillon Brooks. Bringing in Kevin Durant. That's obviously a big shift, but I think they look good. Alperen Sengun looks great. I think he's looking to build on the momentum he's had in past years. So we'll see what ends up happening there, but very interesting matchup. You can't ask for much more than a double overtime first game. The second game wasn't as exciting. It was Lakers-Warriors. Warriors won that one pretty easily. The Lakers, obviously, without LeBron till about mid-November is everything I've heard. Luka put up, I want to say 43 or 45. Big night from him. Austin Reeves had 26. Lakers did not have the opening night they wanted, but it definitely, I didn't think, was an awful showing. Definitely see Luka's still the guy. Not that anybody ever doubted it, but, I expect once LeBron comes back, them to be a lot better. And the Warriors were just really clicking. Jimmy Butler played really well, got to the free throw line, played, did his role. Curry started slow, but came alive. Oh, I like Shea. Jonathan Kuminga had a really good game. I think he had 17 points. Hit, 3 of 6 from three-point land. I think that's a really interesting storyline to watch. I have a hard time looking at a team that wants to be taken seriously as a championship contender when you have a starting player who really isn't going to be on the team long-term. They're looking at that he doesn't want to be on the team. They refuse to trade him. They're going to keep him for a little while. I think teams that win championships are teams with continuity. And obviously you have Curry and you have Draymond and Jimmy's been there a little bit now. But I think you need to build that continuity if you want to be successful as a team. And I don't like it. I think it's a bad move for the organization. But then again, I'm not a GM. But I do think it's one of the most fascinating storylines to follow as we get into the season. Right now, the San Antonio Spurs and the Dallas Mavericks are playing on ESPN with the TNT crew. We'll be there for postgame. I saw Cooper Flagg's stat line. This is just happening currently, so he could turn it around in the time that I record this. But a little rough, but I don't think it's anything to be worried about. Most rookies take a couple years sometimes to be good, so people will freak out over one game. It's not the end of the world. But a lot of good stuff coming up. I can't wait to talk more about it. So, yeah. All right, for the NFL, we had first game I heard down was we had a big game on Monday Night Football with the Texans and Seahawks. That Texans O-line is awful. That O-line genuinely might lose to a high school team, and I think it's terrible because I watched that Texans team. Their defense is amazing. They had 4 takeaways and lost the game somewhat easily. I think C.J. Stroud is a very good quarterback. They've obviously had a lot of injuries with receivers, running backs, everything, but that O-line is just not good enough. They can't establish the run. They can't give C.J. enough time to pass the ball. You have to be able to do both if you want to be successful. They can't even do one. And it's a shame that they're wasting an elite defense on that. But they need to make some serious moves there if they want to be taken seriously. Obviously, I do believe fall to 2-4. Seahawks are legit, man. They have the defense. The defense looked great. The offense looks great with Sam Darnold. still just playing great. Arguably the best wide receiver in the game in Jackson Smith-Njigba. Cooper Kupp is, in my opinion, the ultimate 1B, 2A wide receiver, because you have JSN, obviously the best player on the team. When he's not getting those catches, Cooper Kupp is a great, kind of co-star wide receiver. He's also a great veteran presence to have to kind of anchor that team down. But they look really good. I think the Seahawks are a team people need to be talking about more. And I assume if they keep racking up wins, they will be. The Cowboys beat the Commanders. They beat my Commanders 44-22. Not a great look. Jay Daniels got hurt pretty quick out of the halftime. Doubtful for the game Monday Night Football next week against the Chiefs. I think if you look at the Commanders, the defense is just not good enough. I think kicking needs help. It's just not looking great for the year. I still obviously think, we have the guy at quarterback, so I'm not too concerned. But the defense needs help. The defense needs help. The defense needs work. And that's not to say that there hasn't been good games or there hasn't been highlights, but I just feel like by and large we keep coming back to this point. And, the Cowboys are really in a similar position. Their defense hasn't been great either. Offense just wasn't able to capitalize, especially after Daniels gets hurt. Their offense is legit, though. You look at the Texans, right? They're opposites. The Texans have an amazing defense, not a great offense. The Cowboys are rocking it with probably the best offense in the NFL, one of the best offenses in the NFL. Defense could not stop a parked car, bro. They are not good. And, I think it's so interesting. They're getting ran all over. They got Rico Dowdle ran over and I think he had like 30 fantasy points or something crazy. Against the Panthers the other weekend, when they traded Michael Parsons, Jerry Jones said, "Oh, well, we got to stop the run. We got to stop the run, guys. That's why we traded him." Well, you're really doing a great job of that now, Jerry, huh? But they're 3-1, and I'm sitting at home yapping on YouTube. So keep coming back to that point. But I am not qualified. The Colts beat the Chargers 38-24. Colts look legit. Daniel Jones still looks legit. They're moving out of fluke territory. They're moving into big surprise territory. They've been great. Their offense is just killing teams. I'll be interested to see them play even better teams, but the Chargers are no joke, man. The Chargers are a really good team. They went in and beat them pretty easily. Colts are looking like, other than the Chiefs, the best team in the AFC. And record-wise, I think they are the best team in the AFC. But the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, so... But I am really interesting. People talk a lot of shit about Daniel Jones, but he won a playoff game. He's playing great in that offense. Who knows what ends up happening there? I think comeback player of the year, for sure. Something more than that? I don't know. But the Rams beat the Jaguars 35-7 in London. The Jags hit another snag in the season. They started off really hot. They had that big win over the Chiefs. Kind of cooling off a little bit, but we'll see what ends up happening there. A lot of people talk about Travis Hunter. I think a lot of people feel disappointed by him. I say just give him time. Personally, was not a huge fan of him coming out of the draft, but that's just kind of my stupid opinion. But I think he's a really solid player, but I also think there comes a time when you need the best players, and I don't think he's the best receiver or the best corner in that class. So I think you kind of got to pick one, because right now you have an above-average player at both positions. And that's just, quantity or quality. And I think he could be a very quality receiver or a very quality corner. But this whole, he's going to play both sides. And maybe he can. Maybe he turns it on. I'm wrong. Have been many times before. But I'm not seeing it. I'm not a huge fan of trading up to get him. But then again, who knows? This upcoming week, we have the Vikings and Chargers on Thursday Night Football. It's an interesting matchup. Chargers obviously hitting a slump here recently. Some of these losses need to get a win. And the Vikings obviously still just kind of chugging along without J.J. McCarthy. And I say that like he still has a lot to prove. But the Vikings are just one of those teams that are always going to be solid, I think, because of Kevin O'Connell, because of that offense. So we'll see what ends up happening there. I expect a very good game. I expect a good offensive showing. But we'll see what ends up happening there. We also had the 4-1-1 Packers against the 4-2 Steelers on Sunday Night Football. Steelers-Packers always a great matchup. Aaron Rodgers obviously facing off against his old team. Had that big win against the Jets week 1 where he was really impassioned. I talked a lot about, can he be that passionate in the future? Can he be that, I'm going to go out there and give it everything I have? And I expect that from him against the Packers. Legacy game. We'll see what ends up happening there. I'm interested in how the Packers defense is able to stop the Steelers. We'll see what ends up happening there, but I think that's going to be a really good game. The main point of the week this week is a game. The Giants and Broncos. The Giants were up 19-0 going into the fourth. I also checked ESPN. They were up 26-8 with about 7 minutes left. ESPN gave the Giants a 99.8% chance to win. But the Broncos, who scored 33 points in the fourth freaking quarter of the game, 33 points in one quarter, the fourth quarter, hadn't scored it going in, end up winning the game. It's a big win for the Broncos, who just keep piecing together wins. I saw something the other day that they were like, are they a surprising team? No, they were a good team last year. They're a good team this year. But, probably one of the biggest comebacks I've seen. And if you're the Giants, you lose by 1 point. You miss 2 extra point attempts. PAT. I don't know why I'm blanking there. But, not a great sign for them. They're obviously still just kind of piecing it together, trying to improve. It's not the end of the world, but it is a blow. No one wants to lose, and no one wants to lose like that. But we'll see what ends up happening there. But I think that's just a fascinating case study of the game is never over. The game until the zeros go, the game is never over. And heck of a win by the Broncos. They should feel happy that they got the comeback, not happy that they were down that bad in the game at all. So it's kind of a win-lose situation. But obviously, no more victories. Also, no more losses. A win is a win, a loss is a loss, and you got to live with that. But that's about all I have for NFL this week. Stay tuned for more. All right, for college football, we had probably one of the biggest weekends. I feel like kind of back-to-back. We've had a ton of great games these past 2 weekends. Lot to cover. So last week started off Friday night with a big upset. Louisville upsets Miami 24-21. Miller Moss, great game. Carson Beck, 4 picks, not a great game. I've never really seen a player kill their Heisman case as quickly as he did. I mean, he was right up there to win it. 4 picks in one game, lose to Louisville. Not how you want to. I feel like Miami does this every year. Miami was really good last year at Cam Ward. They were a shoe-in to make the playoff. End up losing a couple of games late. I can't remember what it was, but they lost like Georgia Tech or somebody last year. End up getting booted out of the playoff that they were supposed to make. By all means said, Miami's going to make it. And I just feel like this is a big screw-up. Louisville is a good team, but Carson Beck, 4 picks in one game is just really, really bad. I always say, who are we getting? Are we getting 2023 Carson Beck? Are we getting 2024 Carson Beck? Obviously, 2024 Carson Beck showed up to play that game. It's not the end of the world for Miami, but I also saw the other day, they do not play Georgia Tech, who is undefeated. They do not play Virginia, who is undefeated. They have a serious problem if they don't make the ACC conference game, because that means they cannot lose the rest of the season. They have 2 losses and don't have a conference championship. They will boot them out for someone else. So there's not a lot of room for error for Miami, who was looking like the number 1 team in the country. I said they were the number 1 team in the country. Not a great loss. Not what you want there. But still a lot of games left to play. Georgia beat Ole Miss 43-35. Ole Miss had their chances in that game. I think Georgia just kind of had a little bit more maturity, a little bit more poise. Was able to come alive like they always do late in games. It's not the end of the world for either team. Georgia's definitely reestablished himself as a top 5, top 10 team. Ole Miss is not the end of the world. It's their only loss. But, obviously you want to go in and prove that you're legit. You don't want to lose ever, period. So, disappointing for Lane Kiffin and the Running Rebels, but it's not the end of the world. We'll see what ends up happening there. Alabama beat Tennessee 37-20. Pretty decisive game. Alabama's a top 5 team. They've fully rebounded from Florida State. I don't even know why I keep bringing it up. It's 1 loss. It's not the end of the world. Tennessee has 2 losses now. Not a lot of room for error if they want to be a playoff team. I think they are a playoff team. But obviously, if they lose another game and they have some tough ones coming up, we'll see what ends up happening there. Not a ton of room for error, though. Texas Tech is upset by Arizona State. That was surprising. Texas Tech has an all-world defense, solid offense. They were undefeated. Looking, they're still probably a shoe-in to make the Big 12 championship. They're still playoff contenders, no question, especially with that defense. But Arizona State was able to come in with that high-powered offense. Sam Leavitt, doubtful to even play, shows up and beats Texas Tech and keeps their conference championship hopes alive, keeps their playoff hopes, if there are any, alive. Obviously lost to Utah the week before without their quarterback. But very surprising. I thought Texas Tech might just go undefeated, especially in the Big 12. Obviously a very good conference, but it's not the end of the world for them. I know after every team loses, it's easy to seem like the world is falling. What are we going to do? Well, it's not the end of the world. Things will be okay. But it is surprising, and it does cause a little bit of chaos in the committee. I think we've seen very much last year Clemson upsetting SMU, winning the conference championship, kicking out teams that could have made it in because they want to put. Because if SMU wins a championship, Clemson wouldn't have even been in consideration. A different team could have came in. But it is very fascinating how that could end up playing out with conference championships getting a guaranteed spot in the college football playoff. We also have, I think, very, very interesting. I am blanking right now about what I was going to say. But, defense. Defense is important. One of the things that really stood out to me about the college football playoff last year was how important defense was. The defensive teams were the ones who had success, the teams who were able to get stops. So I look at a team like Texas Tech and I think that's a national championship contender because last year, what precedent do we have? When you're playing multiple games, defensive teams show up and win. If your offense can go out and not be a dumbass, not be stupid, go out there, play solid, and let your defense win you the game. So I look at a team like Texas Tech. Are they still contenders? Yes, because they have the defense. BYU won the Holy War 24-21. Big win for them. They're undefeated. Big 12 contenders, playoff contenders, no question. Notre Dame beats USC 34-24. That's a big win for Notre Dame. Notre Dame, all they got to do is not be dumb, win out, probably are in the playoff. They have 2 losses to Miami, who obviously hit a little bit of a downturn there, but Texas A&M, top 5 team. Miami is still a top 10 team. They lost essentially by a combined 4 points. Both walk-off field goals games. Notre Dame is still definitely a shoe-in behind their excellent quarterback C.J. Carr and a much improved defense. So we'll see what ends up happening with Notre Dame. Obviously, lots of always good games, but a couple that stood out to me is 6-1 Ole Miss, 6-1 Oklahoma. Neither of those teams want to have 2 losses at this point in the season. Oklahoma's lost, obviously, the Texas rivalry game, but they don't deduct points for that. Ole Miss obviously doesn't want 2 losses. Ole Miss, I felt like started really, obviously last year, kind of fell off a little bit later in the season, so they're trying to avoid that and keep playoff, national championship contention alive. And Oklahoma, like I said, just does not want to lose another game. Neither of these teams can afford to lose, but one will. So we'll see what ends up happening there and the implications for that. We also had 6-1 Missouri against 6-1 Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's been great. Beat LSU last week. Is still in playoff contention. Diego Pavia looks great. He might have 5 touchdowns. Somebody had 5 touchdowns. Matt Stafford had 5 touchdowns Sunday. That's what I'm thinking of. Diego Pavia might also have. He had a really good game, is what I'm trying to say. I'm forgetting the numbers, but which is ironic because I'm covering the sport. But Missouri also still wants to prove themselves as legit. Obviously lost to Alabama 27-24. The other week wants to prove that they're still in playoff contention. Vandy beats them. I think they're probably out. But it's a big win for Vanderbilt if they can get it. It's also a big win for Missouri if they can get it. Big implications for all of these games. So the main point for the week, we have Billy Napier fired from Florida. Not incredibly surprising. A lot of the intel suggested that was going to happen. I've seen a lot of potential, coaching hires. The big one is Lane Kiffin. Not happening. He's not going to leave Ole Miss. Ole Miss has been very good. He's built them into a powerhouse. And Florida hasn't been good. They've ran through coaches who knows what. Pause. But, they're just not having this. They're like Penn State. It gets to a point where people blame the coaches. But at a certain point, the coaches don't play on the field. Yes, they take a part in the losses. But I just think you don't leave a winning program at Ole Miss for a not winning program at Florida. Very disappointing tenure for Billy Napier. I'm sure he'll find an OCDC job somewhere or a coach at a smaller school. He's not an awful coach. He's just not good enough for Florida, who wants to be a national champion contender. I think there's lots of good options for the jobs, but Lane Kiffin is not one of them. That's my main point. That's about all I have for college football this week. Big games coming up, big game moments. For movies and TVs, we had a big week, big weekend, as always. Like I said, I say that on every segment for some reason. I don't know what else to say. So let's just jump right into it. The box office, Black Phone 2 came in first with about $27 million, outgrossing the first film by, I think, a couple million. Very good movie. I watched it in theaters. I'm going to do a review soon. But I really liked it. Definitely go check it out. We also had Tron Ares come in $11 million. Very disappointing box office run for Tron. I think all three movies have actually disappointed at the box office, which is kind of interesting. But they'll look to probably try to build with numbers, or it'll just get pulled. Unfortunately, a lot of movies do get pulled before I think they really get a chance to maybe try a long distance campaign. Not all box office is won in the first weekend, Give it a little bit to try. But a lot of these movies, if they don't succeed right away, they get pulled. Smashing Machine has already been pulled because it didn't make enough. But we'll see what ends up happening there. I haven't seen Tron yet. I'm looking forward to seeing it, reviewing it. Catch me up on that later. Good Fortune earned $6.2 million. I think pretty good for an independent film. I haven't looked at what the budget is on that, but obviously the Keanu Reeves workplace heaven comedy. Very excited to see it. It's probably number one on my list right now to go see. Very interested in it. Love Keanu Reeves. He's awesome. Everything. Great guy. One Battle After Another still brought in about $3.9 million, and Roof Man about $3.7. The Channing Tatum led comedy. I'm also very much looking forward to seeing it when I get the chance. I need to see a lot of things. A lot of good stuff that comes out, though. It's hard to stay caught up. I'm sure a lot of the audience understands that. All 4 viewers. I appreciate you guys. I love you. This upcoming weekend, we have Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, starring Jeremy Allen White as American singer icon Bruce Springsteen. Very excited in it. One of my favorite memes is that there's going to be a cinematic universe, like Timothée Chalamet as Bob Dylan's going to show up in the post-credits scene, and they're going to make it like a biopic. They're going to have Elvis in there, and they're all going to start like an Avengers with music biopics. I just think that's hilarious. But we also have Forgetting You, which also, like the Black Phone 2, stars Mason Thames. It also stars McKenna Grace, Allison Williams, Dave Franco. I think it looks really cool. I haven't really been able to clock what the plot is. I've read the description. I just couldn't ever really get it. But it looks really cool. A fun movie. And you could also do a Mason Thames double feature. You can see the Black Phone 2 and Forgetting You. A little bit of scary, a little bit of heartwarming. See what ends up happening there. But, do your own little Barbenheimer. Make a Barbenheimer every weekend. You can see something dark, see something light. Balance it out, right? But I heard a lot of good stuff. We also have, for Halloween coming up, Shelby Oaks, written and directed by Chris Stuckman. Who, if you followed him on YouTube, is a big content creator on YouTube, does a lot of movie reviews, movie analysis, stuff like that. I think his content's awesome. I think he's awesome. I've watched his stuff for many years. It's kind of a passion project of him. And I think it's so cool to see him get that on the big screen, watching, because I knew he had it for a while, hadn't been made. And I think it's so fascinating to see a guy who has a passion project and just kind of wills it into existence. And now it's in theaters. And the thing about when you get a movie in theaters, it could be the worst movie ever. People could hate it. I have not heard that about this movie. I've heard it's great. But even if it sucks, you got a movie in theaters. You know who can take that away from you? Absolutely no one. Nobody can take that away from you. That is yours for life. So that's really cool for him. Very exciting to see that. For TV and streaming, we have new episodes of The Last Frontier. Very interesting series. Looking forward to seeing it. Gen V wraps up. I do believe I'm filming this on Wednesday night. I think it wraps up tonight. Wraps up this week. We're just going to put it like that. Have not caught up on it. I'm looking forward to it. You also have Murdoch, Murder in the Family on Hulu, about the Murdoch family murder trials, or I guess before the murder trials, what led up to the murders themselves. This was a big pop culture phenomenon a couple years ago. I think it's very fascinating, looking into the lens of how that family dynamic was, and the obviously numerous atrocities that were committed by the family and covered up by people, but not to get too far into that. But a very interesting series. Definitely, I think, worth checking out. You also have new episodes of Only Murders in the Building and The Chair Company with Tim Robinson. It's hilarious. Watch it if you want to laugh. I saw one of the funniest. I read someone online said, there's a scene in episode 2 that is quite possibly the funniest thing I've seen all year. And I wholeheartedly agree. That show is hilarious. I love it. Tim is just so funny. But you also have this Sunday, Pennywise, Welcome to Derry. I have heard so much good stuff about it. I literally went on Twitter today. Everything was just saying, oh, it's awesome. 10 stars, 5 stars. It's amazing. It's living up to all the scares. I'm very interested in seeing it. I think it's going to be really cool. But yeah, really excited to see it. You also have streaming on Peacock, The Devil in Disguise, the John Wayne Gacy story. Like I've said in the past, not a huge true crime person. I know a lot about true crime, but it gets to a point where it's just a lot to handle. But if you're into true crime, into that kind of stuff, definitely I think worth checking out on Peacock. I think it came out like a week ago, but I just saw it and thought I would talk about it a little bit. But there's so many good movies, so many good shows to see. If you're interested in something, please go check it out. Go to your local theater, support your local theater, go check it out. And if it sucks, tell people it sucks. All right? Have an experience. Don't keep all your opinions to yourself. Spread them on the internet. Do what I do. I'm not good at it. Probably better than I am. But yeah, that's about all I have for this week. We're going to catch up next week. I have more basketball. Very excited about that. But so much cool stuff coming up. So stay tuned, guys.